A fiddler on the roof. Sounds crazy, no? Well, here in this video, we are going to be discussing how Fiddler on the Roof is perfect for understanding core concepts of ethnic studies. Now, little warning, this video essay contains spoilers for Fiddler on the Roof. So, if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want any spoilers, go and watch it and then come back to this video. Fiddler on the Roof is the story of Tevye the milkman and his life in Anatevka, a fictional village set in Ukraine. It's the story of a uneasy sort of parallel living between the Jews in Anatevka and the Russians in Anatevka. And it is also about the Tevye having to see how far back he's willing to push against tradition for his daughters. Now, the specific ethnic studies concepts that we're going to be discussing are racial formation and racialization, and race in space. Also, apologies in advance if some of the cuts are weird. You're gonna have me jumping slightly ever around, and that's because just the system that I'm using. I would rather speak to you directly and have just sort of a general idea of what I'm doing and just come back and forth than just read off the script the whole time and just kind of be looking up. This is about live theater after all. So just, if the cuts are weird, sorry. Now, racial formation is the concept that we as humans have sort of formed race. And in other words, we have created it in our minds, that is. Now, racial formation is heavily reliant on the idea of race as a social construct. And I think that Ian Haney Lopez describes this best when they say, race is not a determinant or residue of some other social phenomena, but rather stands on its own as an amalgamation of competing societal forces. Now, essentially what that means is that race is just sort of a bunch of combinations of a bunch of different ideas that are mostly also social constructs. In Fiddler on the Roof, we see that a lot. We see that in Fiddler on the Roof, race is identified by your ethnicity / family and who you're related to, as long as following up with the religion and the tradition, and even obeying societal gender roles. Now, here are some examples from Fiddler on the Roof of these societal forces. Now, first off, we see the power of how ethnicity and family, and as well as religion, ties into race in Fiddler on the Roof.
Papa, we want to be married.
Are you out of your mind? Do you know what this means, marrying outside of the faith?
Yes, but...
No! I say no, Hava. Never talk about this again. Never see him again. Never mention his name again. Never. Do you understand me?
Yes, Papa. I understand you.
You must not forget who you are and who that man is. It's just that he is a different kind of man. As the good book says, each shall seek his own kind, which translated means a bird may love a fish, but where would they build a home together?
Times are changing, Papa.
No. Some things don't change for us. Some things never change.
In this next clip, we're gonna see how gender role impacts that as well. And we see the Anatevka is divided into 4 major categories that are gender roles. The mamas, the papas, the sons, and the daughters. And so essentially everyone there is divided by their age and gender, and it creates 4 different categories. And you can see in this next clip, they'll all be singing over each other. And finally, in this last clip, we're going to see a bunch of their sort of social customs, as well as a clear divide between two races, as you can see on the right hand of the screen, and as well as the middle. You can see the Jewish people celebrating their customs versus the Russians people sitting and watching, and you can see immediate difference in their clothing, their posture, everything.
We know that when good fortune favors to such, then it stands to reason we deserve it too. To us and our good fortune, be happy, long life. And if our good fortune never comes, here's to whatever comes. Drink the fire.
Now, it is important to note that some of the differences between them are examples of racialization instead of racial formation, which is to say that the ideas aren't actually a part of their race, but things we have tied to that. And for an explanation on racialization, racialization, we're gonna hand that over to the experts. According to Omi and Winant, racialization is the extension of racial meaning to a previously racially unclassified relationship, social practice, or group. Thank you, Omi and Winant. Now, essentially, in other words, what that is racialization is taking something that isn't inherently racial and being like, yo, guys, that's racial now. Now, within Fiddler on the Roof, one of the clearest examples of racial formation is the Jews and the Russians in Anatevka. Now, both of these groups live in Anatevka. They're really not super different, but they live completely different lives, and it's because of the racial formation, or just the idea that they are different. They've lived separately. Now, within Fiddler on the Roof, the main things that are very racialized are the religion and their traditions, which are all tied together in one. And for some examples of racialization, let's actually go to the main character of the play, Devya.
Here in Anatevka, we have traditions for everything. How to eat, how to sleep, how to work, how to wear clothes. For instance, we always keep our heads covered, and we always wear a little prayer shawl.
Now, all of these were examples of tradition, but they were also examples of racialization because they are used as sort of symbols to show that the person is of that race. Our next ethnic studies concept is race and space, which is essentially the looking at racial issues and seeing how they connect to physical space around them. In the words of Ruth Wilson Gilmore, a geographical imperative lies at the heart of every struggle for social justice. In other words, a racial issue is a spatial issue. Within Fiddler on the Roof, we see a lot of examples of settler colonialism. Colonialism is essentially going to a place and trying to take a bunch of resources from it. And settler colonialism is specifically going to a place and trying to take up land. And so a lot of the strategies differ from regular colonialism. Now we see at the start of Fiddler on the Roof, with this clip here, that Anatevka and the Jews that were sort of pushed to live here are already not in the best predicament when they're starting off.
I'm starving to death. Dear God, you made many, many poor people. I realize, of course, it's no shame to be poor. But it's no great honor either. So what would have been so terrible if I had a small fortune? If I were a rich man.
Next, we see the Russians slowly start to push the boundary of testing the Jewish citizens of Anatevka. And you can definitely start to see in this next clip how the settler colonialism is starting to take place. It's not in full effect, but you can see it starting because settler colonialism isn't like a one-time action. It's a process, which eventually leads to, unfortunately, the improper treatment of certain groups, and a lot of times those are racial groups.
And your news?
We have received orders, Tevye, that very soon in this district there is to be a little unofficial demonstration.
A program? Here?
No, just a little unofficial demonstration.
How little?
Oh, nothing serious, just a little mischief. Enough to show an inspector when he comes through that we are doing our duty. Personally, I don't see why there has to be this trouble among men. But I felt I should tell you, and you can tell the others.
Now in this next clip, we see even more push and another step in the process of settler colonialism. And this step is violence. And so you'll see in this next clip a bit of violence. You don't see like that much, so it's still trigger warning, but it's not gonna be like blood and stuff. But yeah, and this event is, in my opinion, very well parallels events such as in U.S. history, the massacre at Wounded Knee. But yeah, here's the next clip.
I am sorry, but the order is for tonight, for the whole village. Well, go on, play. Play!
And now we see very well another step in the process of settler colonialism. The most well-known part, which is sort of the end product, which is the expulsion of people from their land. In U.S. history, we would see that in Trail of Tears. Next clip.
Tevye, how long would it take you to sell your home and all your household goods?
But why would I sell my house? Is it in anybody's way?
I am here to tell you. You are going to have to leave Anatevka. It applies to all of you. You all must leave. The entire district is to be cleared. I have an order here, and it says that you must sell your homes and be out of here in 3 days.
Now this end clip perfectly shows sort of how settler colonialism looks, and sort of it captures the essence very well, which is why I like live theater so much. And sort of just to show you how sort of connected it is, here's another quote from Ruth Wilson Gilmore. Through treaty, these tribes were prevailed upon to secede their traditional lands in Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida in exchange for land west of the Mississippi. The Choctaw, the Creek, and Chickasaw were the first to be removed, and they suffered the loss of thousands of men, women, and children who died on the route to the west. Now, while this doesn't exactly line up to how Fiddler on the Roof is, as you can see, these indigenous people were given land to actually move to, whereas in Anatevka, it was more that they were forced to find their own place somewhere else. And additionally, it wasn't exactly a treaty as it was more a forced removal. But the end part about the suffering and loss of life on the route somewhere else is very accurate to the story of Anatevka. Thank you so much for watching, and once again, remember to check out Fiddler on the Roof if you haven't already. I highly recommend it. And please check out some of these other authors. Their ideas are genius. And yeah. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy.